Subject of scrutiny here. Decided to do a video. Been feeling kind of decent today, so kids got me sick, so I'm feeling better now. So I've been on the Times of Israel lately because honestly it's the closest thing we got to free press anymore, and this article here was just blew my mind. So I'm going to read some, and then we're going to look at some other stuff. This might end up being a long video because it's a pretty long article, and there's so many good points on it that I might miss some anyway. So let's start. This is by Nathan Lopes Cardozo, and it says, "Circumcision, why risk your child's well-being? A call to all Israelis." Judging by the title, you assume it's going to be really in favor of one or the other, and a call to all Israelis, this probably means pro-circumcision. So let's hear his reasons. And he put, thousands of years ago, the Greeks tried to bring an end to Judaism and thereby to the Jewish people and the Jewish homeland. They did this by prohibiting Jews from circumcising their 8-day-old baby boys. Recently, May 6, 2017, the Progress Party in Norway voted in favor of a law banning ritual circumcision of children under the age of 16. Boom. The so-called reason? Violation of children's rights. That's a so-called reason. And mental and physical harm to the child. Mutilation? That's probably a better word for it, in my opinion, but, okay. So, I mean, just in the first paragraph alone, I mean, two countries, and then, oh no, that's one country. I'm sorry. One country already banning it. And then he goes on. This was done a day after the Environment Committee of Belgium's Parliament of Wallonia voted in favor of banning shechita, which is kosher ritual slaughter. Now, I did another video on this a while back. Nobody's really watched it, so if you're on the channel, go back and watch it. It's like it's called kosher meat and something else. But watch that video and you'll see what a kosher slaughter is. It's pretty gruesome, and I completely agree with that it should be banned everywhere. But anyway, going on. In both cases, these verdicts, although not yet implemented by the Norwegian and Belgian governments, well, duh, because the Jews pretty much run every government, we all kind of know that, are a serious attempt to ban Jews not only from these countries, but from all of Europe. Well, let's see, there's been 109 countries in Europe that have tried to, expel you and stuff. Shroom kit right there. I love how the AI knows what you're, interested in and stuff. That's hilarious. In 2013, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, PACE, recommended to all its 47 member states to ban circumcision. I mean, I don't know where you stand on this, but cutting off half your baby's penis before it can even make a word or do anything besides cry and crap, it's wrong. It's terrible to do. And in my opinion, everything has a purpose. Pubic hair has a purpose. The foreskin has a purpose. Female circumcision, the clitoris definitely has a purpose. So, to do this, in my opinion, is like a slap in the creator or God or whatever you call him's face, because you're basically saying that he was wrong and you have to fix it. So I don't believe in that. And I put, throughout thousands of years, we Jews have become used to these attacks. Well, when you look at Israel, I mean, enough said. We realize that much of this was and is motivated by anti-Semitism. Now, you got to remember, anti-Semitism used to be a word for people who didn't like Jews. Now it's a word that Jews use for their enemies. So if they label you an anti-Semite, you're automatically an enemy of the Jews, just so you know. And a great amount of ignorance. We laughed it off and went our way, knowing that nothing or nobody in this world could force us to stop circumcising our children. We were well aware that giving this up would bring an end to our people and Judaism, so no self-respecting Jew would lend a hand to these ill-conceived attacks. It says, lately, however, some Israeli Jews have joined these forces and even established websites such as Gonen al-Ha-Yalid, Protect the Child, that's what it's called, and organizations such as Kahal, a support group for parents of uncircumcised children, and undecided parents who want to consult with them. See Jerusalem Post from 2017. While the number of uncircumcised children in Israel is very minimal, the fact that these groups have been established is a worrisome phenomenon. Of course it is. When you're used to controlling, owning, running everything, of course something people having free thought or maybe some morals would, worry about that. And it says, it is impossible to argue with anti-Semites. Well, when you're wrong, yeah, it's hard to argue with people when, everyone knows you're wrong except you. Even you know you're wrong, but you're still going to push it, so whatever. Since hate is all they know, and no reasoning will change their minds, on the other hand, it is most important to realize that many well-meaning Jews and Gentiles, that's the nice way of saying goyim, by the way, is Gentiles, are deeply influenced by so-called humanitarian considerations and begin wondering whether they are, after all, justified. Yeah, I think so. I mean, most people would think so. Single moms don't know anything. Not single moms, but I'm saying the way they set up the system, there's more single mothers, and single mothers are going to listen to doctors or whatever, and they say, oh, you won't get infections, and you won't do this, you won't do that. Just wipe your wiener off. It's not that hard. You got to wipe your kid's pee-pee a little bit more. Come on, just seriously. And it's ridiculous. Ritualistic mutilation of a defenseless baby. I mean, just come on. It's ridiculous. Let's go on. Indeed, there is a valid question to be asked. It is not an infringement on the rights of a child who never consented to this intervention, and in truth, is it not a harmful and traumatic experience? Yes, I'm sure it is. Perhaps all the parties who want to ban circumcision are right, after all. Yeah, they probably are. What these well-meaning people, especially Jews, have to realize is that the whole premise on which these objections are based is the result of a profound misunderstanding of what human beings are all about, what moves them, and what makes their lives meaningful. So mutilation and makes life more meaningful, I guess. So, okay, let's continue on. Okay, I think this is, okay. It says, to be truly alive is possibly only when one lives for some supreme goal. The ultimate question regarding our lives is whether there's anything worth dying for. If the answer is no, then we ask ourselves whether there is anything to live for. For most thinking people, there is more to life than our physical survival or having a great time. Because that's all you guys do, is party and do nothing. It is the exaltation of existence and the ability to hear a perpetual murmur emitted by the waves beyond the shore of worldliness that give us the feeling of life's utmost significance. If not for that, we would agree that French philosopher novelist Albert Camus, who said that the only serious philosophical problem is whether or not to commit suicide. It's pretty funny, but I don't think he wrote that. So, there are values in life that surpass our concern for the mundane, and many of us are prepared to make a highly uncomfortable and even painful sacrifice in order to live by those values. It is these sacrifices that give our lives a notion of belonging, of being part of something much larger than the sum of the components that makes up our physical existence. Okay. I'm not going to really, whatever. This is where they muddy it up with a bunch of jargon and, this and that, and, let me quote some poets, and, let's fluff it up in the middle right here to get you all like, oh, yeah, it is your own right, and oh, this is sacred, but I don't agree. He talks about, like, fulfilling... You could look at it in the Times of Israel if you... I don't want to read this part again. I already did. Okay, giving them a higher mission. Giving kids a higher mission. Okay. Surely children will always have the opportunity to reject the individual missions chosen for them by their parents and replace them with their callings. So the last, 3 paragraphs, he was just talking about, the mission of Jews, and he was being really vague, but if you know anything about it, then I'm sure you know what he's talking about. But let's continue on, because it's just that part's boring. By the parents and replace them with other callings, yet of invaluable importance, it is their parents made them aware of the fact that without a mission, life is not worth living. I mean, I don't really agree with that. You don't have to set your whole life against one specific thing. I mean, you can have many things to do in life. I mean, but whatever. When we object to circumcision on the basis of child mutilation, a description completely disappropriate to the small incision that takes only a few seconds, heals within hours, bullshit, and has no serious consequences, bullshit. First of all, it doesn't heal within hours. You're literally chopping about half of it off. I've seen it done. The kid shits themselves most of the time, or they'll piss themselves and they scream like crazy. I mean, the worst blood-curdling scream you can imagine. And when I was still asleep, I thought it was a good idea to do it, so my oldest is circumcised. So I really regret it, and I feel bad about it now, but there's nothing I can do about it now, so whatever. But I know what I'm talking about, so anyway. And it says, has no serious consequences. There's a lot of consequences with circumcision, especially Jewish ritual circumcision. It's a little different than a medical procedure, but we'll get into that later. And it's denying the child's right to autonomy over his body. It could seem that we are making a valid claim. Indeed, by what right are we, as parents, allowed to do so? But shouldn't we also ask ourselves honestly whether we have the right to bring a child into this world at all? Is it not much greater injustice than circumcision? This is diversion now. He's talking about something else. No doubt, even with today's excuse me, medical knowledge, many children are tragically born with all sorts of deformities or illnesses. Excuse me. Often crippled and handicapped for life, others may suffer at some stage in life, contracting diseases, experiencing violence, and even becoming victims of war and other atrocities. Not a lot of that going on, though, in their community. Anyway. Has anyone, before planning birth, ever asked their future child for consent to be born? Like, oh my God, what a red herring. Should we ban all future pregnancies and births? As we now want to do with circumcision? Sorry, I can't read, guys. Sorry. Subconsciously, we all know that we have the right to bring a child into the world because there is something about life that overrules all objections against it. Blah blah blah. Believe this. Be clear to just bring children into the world, knowing full well how much harm and pain they'll most probably encounter. Okay, quotes another person. Okay, right here. One of the greatest tragedies of modern times is that millions of people live and die without ever being aware that there is supreme meaning to their lives. God. I mean, you want to talk about truth in plain sight, like these nihilistic, materialistic people who just stare at their phone all day and they are more contact with their friends, and I'm doing air quotes, online than they do with their own family. And it's pathetic. But that right there is just like, man, just telling the truth. Closely related to this is the issue of rights and duties. Western society is rights-oriented, and secular ethics are deeply rooted in this. Yeah. One of the great contributions that Judaism, and to a certain extent other religious denominations, like the Catholics who all wear yarmulkes, made to this world is the concept of duty. This is an essential distinction that cuts across many issues. Judaism does not believe that people own their bodies and therefore free to do with them whatever they please. Sounds pretty nihilistic. Judaism and most monotheistic religions believe that the human body is a loan granted by God, who is the ultimate owner. But in most religions, it also says that your body is the temple of God. So I think chopping off the tip of it is probably not what you should do with the temple of God, in my opinion. So, pushing on. Parents, therefore, have the responsibility to convey to their children a purpose in life, which must reflect the notion of obligation. For the same reason, it is not a human right to bring children into the world. It is a duty. If it is seen as merely a right, what happens when the rights of the parents clash with those of the child? When parents abort a healthy fetus because they have the right to do so, are they not violating the right of the child to be born? There he is right there, just saying right now, abortion is wrong. The rite of circumcision is the Jews' way of passing on life's meaning to their children by obligating them to fulfill the Jewish people's covenant with God. Sealed thousands of years ago, it is the duty we talk about, and there is no growth except in the fulfillment of one's duties. So, okay. He doesn't really say what the duties are, but you got to fulfill them. And I'm pretty sure that they don't believe in, like, heaven and hell. I think they just believe in here. Don't quote me on that. I am studying it. It's one of the most, secretive type religions, I mean, it's hard to get like real information, and when you do get it, they try to say, oh, it's not real, and they play all the mind games that they're doing in this exact article. So but let's continue. For Jews, circumcision, the promise to live life with a great mission as its guide, is God's seal imprinted on human flesh, and it is only proper that this sign of allegiance be imposed upon the body. Never really heard about it. I mean, whatever. For, after all, it is not the soul that needs to make the commitment. The soul is already committed to its mission. It is the body, the very instrument through which man carries his soul, his constant companion, enabling him to live a life of nobility, that makes a vow to compel itself to serve God. Okay, right here, this is a great one too. Like a piece of paper that carries the buying power of a certain dollar amount. Just described all our worthless paper money. The body serves as the vessel that holds the soul, just as the symbolic markings on the bill inform us of the value assigned to it by the Treasury Department. And he's not talking about numbers. He's talking about the symbols, like yeah. So too does the sign that parents inscribe on the bodies of their children reveal the greatness of the souls they house. Oh my God. Since Judaism strongly believes in action and the physical, not only in faith and spirituality, the transient act of baptizing with water isn't insufficient. Judaism wants the body to be transformed, and if the body fails to live up to its lofty responsibilities, the physical imprint of the circumcision serves as a constant reminder of what it means to reside in the presence of God. It is a testimony to one's spiritual obligations and potential. The claim that it may hurt for a moment and that it interferes with the child's self-determination is totally disproportionate to its infinite spiritual value. I don't know. I don't agree with that, but anyway. The child, from the very beginning of his life, is physically and symbolically reminded that living a life of higher meaning requires sacrifice, but is also the source of both ultimate happiness and the notion of mission. Once again, the mission. What is the mission? They're not going to tell us. If you're Jewish, you know what the mission is, so that's why. This is, like I said, this is as close to free media as we're getting these days, especially with the whole net thing going on. But anyway, to say that women are party to the covenant only in a secondary way because they do not undergo circumcision is like saying that American citizenship applies only to those who fly the stars and stripes on their flagpoles. Everybody else being a second-class citizen. And then that's a quote from someone else. Medical science has not yet determined whether circumcision has medical advantages. It all depends on which school of thought you ask. And many medical opinions on the subject are driven by opposing agendas. Boom! That is so truthful. Arguing about this is missing the point. Circumcision has nothing to do with the medical advantages. It has to do with the meaning of life and its higher purpose. Okay. But, I mean, that's what those people are saying the point is, because it is physically harming them. But whatever, okay, whatever. But what about all the Jews who are no longer religious and have abandoned Judaism? Why should they continue to circumcise their children? It is as if the earlier mentioned famous architect of Judaism, Baruch Spinoza, answered this question. The sign of circumcision is, I think, so important that I could persuade myself that it alone would preserve the nation forever. And it says, what this great philosopher was arguing is that Jews may reject Shabbat, Kashrut, and Judaism at large, but as long as they circumcise their children, they will preserve their nation from utter oblivion, because they realize that it stands at the core of Jewishness and represents a good deal more than just a religious rite or the belief in God. Excuse me. Okay. Circumcision is an event that exists as a moment in the past, yet extends into the present. From a human perspective, circumcision happens just once, but from the perspective of mission, the message conveyed by this act, the Jewish nation's unwavering commitment either to God, ethics, or Jewishness, resounds forever. What is Jewishness? I don't know. I should look that up. Monuments of stone may disappear. Acts of the Spirit will never vanish. Okay. All right. Okay. From a religious perspective, at the time of circumcision, his parents imprint God's seal on the body of their child, thus bringing him into the covenant with God and human being. From that moment, the child begins his journey on the road to commitment to holiness, which, although not yet known to him, is the most challenging and rewarding mission life can offer, to become a servant of God and a blessing to all nations. Oh my God. Boom, right here. Okay, let's keep going. As Spinoza, who had left all Jewishness, so correctly observed, circumcision is a secret to the miracle of Jewish survival. That those Jews who oppose circumcision should never forget is that the attempt to outlaw this rite may not make Jewish life impossible, but would probably end all Jewish existence. In fact, it is a call to end the state of Israel as the national homeland of the Jewish people. This would be more than tragic. It would bring an end to all the great contributions to civilization that Jews have made throughout the thousands of years, and still do, thanks to the state of Israel. These contributions are grossly disproportionate to its world population and are most miraculous. To abandon circumcision is not only to undermine the very existence of the Jewish people in the state of Israel, is also a great injustice to all of humankind. Oh, okay. All right. As Winston Churchill once said, another puppet of them, some people like Jews and some do not, but no thoughtful man can doubt the fact that they are beyond all question the most formidable and the most remarkable race which has ever appeared in the world. Oh my God. I didn't even read that the first time. I think I skipped that one. Then right here, this is the best one right here. The remarkable capacity of the Jewish nation to outlive all its enemies, from the Egyptians to the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians, and down to the Nazis. Jewish enemies. Oh my God, let us never forget that would be fatal. How did the Roman Empire fall? How did the Persian Empire fall? What about the Egyptians and the Greeks? What do they all have in common with America right now? People don't want to think about that. They don't want to know. Let's look up some Jewish circumcision. In case you didn't know, what they do, and I'll give you the broad strokes, is they cut the baby, they clip him, they like put a little clamp on it, and they cut it off, and then the pastor, or he puts spices on it first. He pours a bunch of spices and stuff on it, and then he cuts it, and then after he cuts it in true vampire style, you can see here, he puts his mouth on the freshly cut penis of the baby and sucks the blood out like a vampire. There's a picture of one doing it there. There's more. There's another one right here. Why ultra-Orthodox Jewish babies keep getting herpes. Okay. Because they're letting these rabbis who look at this creepy guy. I always see this guy on the internet. God, that guy is creepy. Would you let that guy put his mouth on your newborn baby's wiener? I mean, I wouldn't. Any of these guys. All these guys look creepy as hell. They all look like Uncle Creepy. Anyway. So that's the circumcision part of it. That's just one part of it. And here's another story on it. Like 13 babies or something. Got herpes babies. And, it's disgusting. It's sickening, and it should be stopped, honestly. If you're going to circumcise them, cool, but they should not let the guys put their mouth on them. It should be a semi-medical procedure if they really must do it, But it's not right to mutilate. And then let's go to kosher slaughter. And then, they'll give you all this stuff. Must be slaughtered in a particular way. It doesn't say what way. So the rabbi in a kosher arbiter or arbitoire, whatever, is a specially trained religious slaughterer. The animal must be killed so it feels little pain. That's a lie. That is 2 or 3 good lies right there. No, it's like one lie and one just super vague in a particular way. The way is they bring it in super alive, and they set up these places to stress out the animal as much as possible so it has as much adrenaline pumping as possible. And then they grab it and they throw it into this thing, and it flips them upside down. and then they pull its head all flat out and straight, and then they just cut its neck and drain all the blood out of it and let it just bleed out hell slow. And they say they have to take the blood out, but it's like, man, they could like kill it first and then, but they like kill it in like the most horrible, brutal way possible. I can't show it on there. They'll give me a strike. And then look at this. You know, 109 countries expelled in Europe expelled the Jews from their countries, and just the Nazis just happened to be the 109th country to expel them. Now we got the 110th. But a Jewish sect expelled from Guatemalan villages after clashes with Mayan villagers. But these people right here, this is around 203 members of Lev Tahor. I guess these guys reject the state of Israel, and it says down here at the bottom. Okay, okay, right here, boom. Right here. Anyway, this is what I wanted to show in this one. The group was founded by Mr. Hellbrands in the early 1990s and rejects the state of Israel, saying the Jewish promised land can only be established by God, not men. So, there's that. You know, there they are right there in the town in Guatemala. I guess they kicked them out because they were like throwing off the tourists. I mean, you know, they're giving them a whole Middle Eastern terrorist vibe probably. But, yeah, and it says they refuse to integrate. We're putting the tourists off to whom the local economy depends. But these guys are separate from Israel. That's the only reason the U.S. isn't invading Guatemala for weapons of mass destruction. And, I mean, you can go through this one. There's a lot of numerology in a lot of these things. I don't really like going through it all, but sometimes I just type random stuff in, and I forget which article it was in now, but anyway. This video got a little long. I appreciate you guys. Come check out some of the older videos I did on the kosher meat. That one's pretty good. So, like, share, subscribe.